Hey guys, today I'm meeting with Mr. Juan Carlos, who's right here. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. Thank you, Kennedy. Okay, well, my name is Juan Carlos Negrette, as Kennedy already said, and I'm the Director of Global Health at the University of Utah.
So today I have 6 questions that you've already reviewed, and I guess we can just get started. So, Mr. Carlos, what is global health and why is it important?
Kennedy, global health is more to me is a way of looking at the world. Of course, it's a body of knowledge. It is its own doctrine of thinking, if you want, and it's clearly a discipline.
Mm-hmm.
But that discipline comes from a way of looking at the world. It's understanding that both healthcare and health conditions globally differ, and there's a reason why they differ, and we believe that we have achieved a level of both social and economic development that would allow us to ensure that most individuals have access to what we consider basic healthcare, basic health services, or also to a productive and happy life.
Okay, my second question, it starts with a statistic I got from WHO. So, although preventable and curable, in 2019, approximately 1.2 million HIV negative people died from TB, with an additional 208 million deaths among people living with HIV. So, like when I read this, I kind of thought, what are the primary factors of death, particularly when something can be so preventable?
Oh, that's a profound question. The truth of the matter is that nation's wealth, and GDP per capita is one of the biggest predictors of health outcomes. Unfortunately, Africa is the poorest region, and it's complex. I mean, it's very difficult to eradicate, and I think if we could have done it by now would have done it. Money alone does not solve the issue. Purposefully used money certainly will find a way.
My third question is it evident that health and health outcomes differ depending on where you live, not only in the Americas but in the world?
Oh, it's absolutely true. And it varies from country to country.
Mm-hmm.
You find it in the US, you find it in Chile, you find it everywhere. I mean, you find that. I mean, geography and socioeconomic conditions predict to a great deal health outcomes.
My second question, you kind of addressed. I asked, how can we improve access to treatment and resources in developing nations? And you said it's not always about the resources you shovel at a community, but it's also the infrastructures you enact. So I guess a question that I have coming off of that is, since you work in the global health sphere, is that kind of what you do? Are you the person who is kind of enacting those infrastructures?
So let me clarify something. I didn't not shoveling resources. I mean shoveling financial resources.
Yeah.
If I missed that, just for the sake of clarity, meaning to say that throwing
Right.
in money per se doesn't help.
Got it.
When I said purposefully invested money,
Then it
that one
does.
helps, and also that investment is the greatest in return, or offers the greatest return when you work not as the savior,
Mhm.
but as a partner.
Right.
And that one has a better punch. A great predictor also of success is ownership, local ownership. So what we do is we contribute with knowledge, and of course with the resources that allow us to place this knowledge where that knowledge is needed.
Okay. So I guess that kind of leads into my next question. How do we make research and scientific knowledge more accessible outside of the U.S. and especially in developing nations?
The more we continue with the practice of perhaps discounting access to certain institutions and placed in certain regions of the world, that helps a great deal. But I think we have to ensure that something that gets shared, people know that it's being shared as well. So perhaps our responsibility is not just in placing something in the clouds, is on reaching out your networks and telling it is out seeks for this and initiating a conversation on things.
My last question is, how important is it to understand the cultural context of the people we serve and partner with?
Central. It's essential. Ignoring culture is at your own peril. If you do not take into consideration from the inception from the way the conversation starts, what are the cultural particularities in which you are getting into, and you ignore them, you are reducing your chances for success.
Mm-hmm.
And culture is not necessarily eating the local food, which is important also. What I'm saying is it doesn't stop there. It gets to know how do people talk about things, how do they relate to things.
Mm-hmm.
Female genital mutilation may have a correlation with difficult births and with higher levels of, let's say, child mortality or even obstetric fistula in certain parts of the world. Of course, that is the cultural element that if you ignore and you see that kids are dying, you may have the wrong approach. But how do you help others to see the problem, the issue that they're immersed into? I'm going to tell you something about someone who comes from a slightly different culture from this. In many instances, for me to see problems or issues in my home country, I had to talk to people who were not from my home country, because they allowed me to see. I thought it was part of the landscape.
Right.
So I didn't realize it was an issue. It's like that. Kids asking for money in the streets has been like that forever. So what is the big deal, right? So unless someone said, seriously, I mean, think of it. It doesn't need to be that way. When you get that perspective, that is usually a foreigner, the one who brings that perspective to you, or someone who went out and came back, say, my goodness, that's true. Why do I think this is the should be of things? That exchange is very important. So understanding culture, but not being too afraid of, hey, saying, you know what, this issue is something for us to look into. Is something that perhaps as colleagues and partners we should be candid in embracing.
I like how you said that, because usually when you're thinking about another culture, it's kind of like live and let be, like you don't want to go to another place and tell them that they're doing something wrong. But I didn't think about it as potentially helpful, like having just an outside perspective of something that could be better. Do you know the show Dora the Explorer?
Yes, of course.
I kind of imagine you as her. How she's just going everywhere and like teaching and making friends.
Yeah, and learning a great deal. I like reading a lot. However, most of what I know, I learned it from someone else.
Really?
Yeah. Learning for me has been an incredibly, or a heavily social process, let's put it that way. Everything I know, I owe it to a lot of people.
That's what I hope to convey through my channel, because there's a lot you can learn from, I guess, a book or from reading something, but I feel like a lot of necessary and kind of like pivotal knowledge comes from other people and their experiences. So thank you for talking to me again.
Thank you.